All right, it's Friday. We're talking fear. Does that make it Fear Friday? I guess it does make it Fear Friday here. Echoes of Fear. I am your co-host, Jason Hewlett,
And I am Kenton J. Moore.
and we're back with our second episode. I'm excited because this we're talking about something that I think most people have, Kenton, and that's arachnophobia. I know I'm not like super arachnophobic, but I don't like spiders.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like spiders at all. How about you?
I usually don't really care about them, but if I'm focused on something else and one crawls across my hand, I'm definitely tend to pro or definitely prone to a little bit of that girlish scream and maybe some slapping and tossing of the spider across the room.
Right. My buddy Sean, who does the opening music, for our show here and the closing music, he has hardcore arachnophobia. Like he is absolutely terrified of spiders. And I know a lot of people who are
Yeah.
terrified of them. I think, I'm sure I know you're going to provide all the stats and data and information on this, but I think it's like a big one for people in
Yeah.
our society is fear of spiders. So what do you got for me?
Yeah, well, it's definitely huge. I mean, talking about prevalence, like you mentioned, this one of all of the fears we've done, like you said, is one of the top most common phobias. So 3 to 6% of the total population of Earth is phobic of spiders. Females rank higher than men. In terms of having the phobia, but there are some studies and sources out there that suggest it could be up to 15% just because of like lack of reporting, like people that aren't coming in and talking about it and stuff like that. So if you think in terms of numbers, that's 3 to 15 out of every 100 people are phobic
I
of
can see that.
spiders.
I believe it. My tenant Olivier, who you know from our Sasquatch hunting days, um, he doesn't like them, and he found like one day coming home in the back entryway, literally one. No one, our audience can't see it, but it was like the size of like a toonie,
Oh
the
my.
black widow, because it's the time of year when they're starting to like get ready to lay eggs and all that kind of stuff, right? And he actually came and got me so that I could go kill it for him, and he's a big tough sheriff.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah, because like both of my kids have various levels of varying levels of arachnophobia.
Yep.
My son's definitely he's a teenager now, 18, 19, and he's getting to that point where he's less afraid. So now he actually hunts spiders around his house. He's got one of those little BB guns, like an airsoft gun that he goes around and hunts the spiders, shoots them with a BB gun. He still won't squish them. He doesn't want to get close enough. And if they come towards him, yeah, he goes nuts. But my daughter, I was just talking to her before this episode this morning because of course, I reached out to my kids and I said, like, do you mind if I talk about your phobias and stuff with these things? And my daughter said, yeah. And she goes, absolutely. She goes, actually, you know what? Just the other day, like literally 3 days ago, she was laying in bed on her phone, just getting ready to go to sleep, and a big wolf spider, which is,
Mm.
for anyone who doesn't know, they don't spin webs. They hunt on the ground, like almost like a Canadian North American tarantula. They're furry. They have long legs. They're quite large. Not necessarily dangerous to us at all, but they are aggressive, right? But anyways, a wolf spider crawled across her chest while she was in bed.
Oh,
So of course, she panicked and she ripped her hoodie off and jumped out of bed and stood in the corner of her room, just shaking and unable to move for a full 10 minutes.
wow.
Like just a full on borderline panic attack. And then finally, after about 10 or so minutes, she forced herself, like willed herself to move, came over, unfolded the shirt as quickly as she could, found the spider, and got her cat to eat it.
That's awesome, man.
It's like, but like, my son, I know even when we were younger, it didn't have to be an actual spider even itself. We used to play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons together. And I remember I was always the DM because, the problem about being an author and really a talented storyteller is that you tend to have that dungeon master curse where you're
Yep.
always that guy, right?
Yep. Always the
And
guy
we
telling the
were
story.
Yeah, we were playing a game and I put a giant spider model down on the table, and Corbin immediately moved his chair like 6 inches back from the table. It's like, and he refused to touch any of the models on the table or anything like that. It was just like, pretty crazy. And that's just it, and when I was doing the research and I was looking at all these triggers, right? They talk about that even the sight of spiders or web can trigger these phobic paranoias, right? The thought or the anticipation of coming across a spider, like you might not go into a cellar or a dark room or a creepy cabin in the woods because there might be spiders. I know my kids, I used to have this mobile home on Goldstream Lake in Victoria that was a bit older, and the kids didn't like it because there was lots of spiders around in the
Hmm.
bush, and they didn't want to come over and spend the night, and if they did, they wanted to sleep on the futon in the living room and not the bedrooms, and like in some cases, even speaking about it can cause a physical reaction. Like when I was talking to my daughter before recording today, she said that she was even feeling a little nauseous to her stomach just telling me that story.
Interesting. I mean, so it's got to be pretty clear why people are arachnophobic. But what did you find? Like, what was it? Not like, in terms of what was the basic thing about spiders that freaks people out?
Well, that's what was really interesting about it. There 90% of the time it was based on a traumatic experience. Like maybe as a very young child, they saw or were caught or trapped in a room by spiders and stuff like that. But here's the interesting thing: in a significant amount of people who experience severe arachnophobia, it's because they were exposed to their parents' phobia
Oh, so the
as a
parents were
young
scared
child.
first, right?
Correct. So it's almost like a hereditary phobia. It's one of the few that there is some sort of generational link.
Okay, and I could see that because I know my wife doesn't like spiders, and her mom is very arachnophobic. So if you grow up around someone who's freaked out of spiders, you're just, as any kid is, the kids learn from, we are both parents. Our child learns from our behavior, a lot of the things that they do, right? They have their own bits of personality and stuff, but they mirror what we perform, especially when they're younger, and then it's just ingrained in them. So I could totally see that. If a spider came across the floor and I lose it in front of my kid and freak out and start throwing things at it, my son is going to naturally think that that's how you respond to seeing that spider.
Correct, right? It's
Yeah.
like almost a learned behavior.
Yeah.
And of course, being prone to anxiety disorders or any of those kind of things, like there's a lot of research that's coming out now about the way the amygdala, which is the portion of your brain that's responsible for fear, there's a lot of things coming out about how neurochemicals affect that region, and it could be, a chemical imbalance that causes these kind of phobics or being prone to a lot of these phobias. But I was really interested about this exposure to parental phobia because, like I said, I don't like them. I'm not going to buy a tarantula. I'm not like wanting to hold one and pet it. But I mean, if I see a wolf spider run across my floor, I'm not going to freak out and refuse to enter the room for a day, and because I mean, I've grown up on farms like most of my life. I know that spiders do good for the place for the most part. I mean, you don't really want a lot of black widows, and
Yeah, or like an
sure.
African bird eating spider that's gonna, or like every spider in Australia,
Yeah,
which is there to
yeah,
kill you.
the continent of death.
Right?
Sorry, Australian listeners, but
But
your
yeah,
Commonwealth brother in the white north is making fun of you.
but I mean, it justifiably so. Like I've been there, and like they'd say, like before you put your shoes on in the summer, like check your shoes because if one of the spiders is in there that's poisonous, it'll bite you, and guess what? You're in deep trouble.
Yeah,
Um,
and one of the recent ones too that's been happening a lot in our area, Jason, with spiders is the brown recluse.
mhm.
Was it's an introduced spider, and they have the venom causes necrosis in humans.
Yes.
But what they love is dry wood piles. So anybody up here in our area, like McClure, Barrier, and all these places, these rural places where I live, north of Kamloops and all those areas, a lot of people are still on wood stoves and still
Yep.
have like wood sheds and piles and stuff. And like when I was still in the Navy, there was a guy that I sailed with on my boat. And he was living just outside of Victoria, I think up near Shawnigan Lake. They had a wood stove and all that. And his wife got bit by a brown recluse on the inside of her thigh. And she ended up having to have like a 2.5 inch skin graft because of the
Wow.
necrosis that, like all this stuff and like muscular rigidity for 6 months, like just crazy from a
Isn't that
little
nuts?
spider, right?
And that then just fuels the arachnophobia when you hear stories like that, right? Like this
Correct,
is a
right?
small thing that can take out a human being, like
Yeah.
basically.
And I think that is why a lot of people, tend to gravitate towards either an uncomfort or eventually a learned phobia of spiders is media sensationality, which is something I think we're going to talk about a lot this season because a lot of the phobias that I've been discovering tend to be sensationalized by real world events or the media. But also, pop culture and film and movies, spiders are never a good sign, you know what I
Nope.
mean? Like,
Let's talk about the movie Arachnophobia.
oh,
It's a prime
exactly.
example of that. Like I remember seeing that for the first time in a theater, and people were screaming and just losing their minds, and it was like, and it was great because I mean it plays that fear up to the hilt. And I mean, gets obviously a ridiculously big spider, one of the African bird-eating spiders, but it's just like it's scary. That's a scary ass movie.
Yeah. And what was interesting about it too was it not supernatural at all.
No,
You know what I mean? It's not eight-legged freaks.
which is a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
it's like the 1950s giant spider movies. You know what I mean? Like you don't take it that seriously. Although I love the scene where the cat's fighting the spider in the air conditioning duct. That's just like a
Oh, I
great
know.
sequence.
I saw that movie once and that was enough. Not exactly something I was like, hey, I can't wait to go and do that. But like even arachnophobia too, like spiders or spider-like creatures appear everywhere and never in a good way, except for what is it, Spaceman? The new, I haven't seen it yet. I've been wanting to watch it. The new one with Adam Sandler, where there's that like spider
Oh
alien
yeah,
creature
I
that
think it's
helps
space. I
him.
haven't seen it either, but it is a spider-like creature that he encounters. But it's benign. Like it's
Yeah, and it's super friendly and helpful and all that from what I've seen. But then, you watch like Love, Death, and Robots, that episode where they find the Cthulhu monster in the caves in Afghanistan, all those spider creatures with
yeah.
humanoid faces that are eating people, and
Even Stephen King's in its natural form is more of a spider.
more of spider-like, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy how there's just something unsettling, I think, because and I think personally, spiders represent a lot of different phobias, like trypophobia, which is something we might talk about in a future episode, is like multiple holes.
Mhm.
Like creatures with multiple eyes or honeycomb or the fear of like lots of different holes and things, and spiders kind of represent that with the way their faces are and how they move and their legs and the fact that, like you said, this little thing can cause you so much damage and harm, but it could also get away from you and hide from you so easily.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't kill it right away and it escapes, it could come back and get you, because it could be it's pissed off, right? Because some of them are aggressive too.
Yeah,
Um, it's interesting then that like, Stan Lee would choose like a spider for like Spider-Man as like a superhero. You know what I
right.
mean? Attributing someone like that. Maybe that's because they're just trying to follow the Batman route, take something that's kind of scary and make it into, but Spider-Man is not like Batman. He's like the complete opposite. He's not this dark, brooding character.
Yeah.
Um,
And aside from the fact that, like he obtained his powers from a spider, like he doesn't really represent spiderdom in any specific sort of way. I mean, he shoots webs and he webs up criminals and he flies around the city, but he's not like, injecting venom that
no,
liquefies people's internal organs.
which I mean that maybe if it was created today, he would. You know what I mean? It was just a
Yeah.
different era. It was 60s, right? Like, Very different. But yeah, no, it's a fascinating one. There's a series of books. I think what's the first one called? I think it's called Skitter. There's three of them, but it's about these old kind of Mayan spiders that show up. And the first wave is like just these little spiders that fly in on their silk webs. And then they bite you, but when they bite you, they inject something in you that you then become the host for the next wave, which is bigger spiders. And it's a fascinating kind of sci-fi horror story. I only remember the title of Skitter, which I think is the second book in the series. Oh, Kenton's doing a quick Google search here to see if he can find it.
Uh, I actually wasn't. I was looking at something else, but you said Skitter
Skitter, Skitter novel.
book. Mm-mm-mm. Alexei Zetner.
Yep, that's the author.
Yeah.
There's three of them.
Ezekiel Boone continues his shivery and wildly entertaining homage to classic horror novels with Skitter.
Yeah.
The
Does it say the
second,
title of the other two?
uh, it's no, but the series is called The Hatching.
That's right. The first book is The Hatching, then it's Skitter, then it's 0 Day. See there, it all comes back to me now.
Yeah.
But they're well worth the read. If you're arachnophobic and you want to read a book that literally gives you the creeps, that's a great one, for sure.
Huh. Yeah, I was what I was trying to do is I remember just as we were talking, I like how the neurons fire and some weird thing happens in the back of your head. There's a place I remembered reading about a city where the whole town ends up being pretty much covered in spider web like once every year, every couple years because of this like overabundance of these small like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I was trying to figure out where that was. Is it yeah, Australia.
That'd be a nightmare. Of course, Australia.
Of
Like, where
course it's
else would something like
Australia.
that
Yeah.
happen?
Gippsland, state of Victoria, greeted with layers of gossamer cobwebs after the area was hit by severe flooding, according to CNN, June 16th, 2021.
Isn't that crazy?
Imagine just like waking up in the morning and your entire town is like covered in spider web.
I'd
Blech.
leave. I would leave right away after nuking my vehicle with Raid spider killing spray.
Yeah, it just makes me think of aliens, eh? Like we should take off, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be
Yeah,
sure.
that's the only way to be sure.
Yeah. So many memes, hey, too. Like when you look up this kind of stuff, your phone just gets flooded with memes. I've got this one of a guy. Have you ever heard of dragon's breath rounds for
Yeah,
shotguns?
oh yeah, yeah.
And they put them in a 12 gauge shotgun and it shoots a big fireball and it's a guy shooting one of those into the trees and it says, "Sorry, thought I saw a spider." I don't mean to laugh, but it's just funny. But but yeah, it's funny how it's like it's all over pop culture. It's like everywhere. Hey, yeah, and how many video games? Like God, I remember playing World of Warcraft as a kid, and one of the early missions I had to do was go into this cave and kill a whole bunch of spiders. And
Yep, that was one of the first ones.
yeah, yeah, there's just
Yeah.
like they appear as an enemy almost everywhere. And if they're not actually spiders, they're spider-like aliens. And like
Well, even like in Alien, the face hugger is very spider-like.
correct, yeah,
Like
yeah,
down to
for
the eight
sure.
legs and all that stuff, right? Like it just plays on that whole fear. And then you've got the impregnate. It's just yeah, it's one of the greatest creations in science fiction horror and horror in general
Yeah,
is the face hugger for its
yeah,
spider-like qualities and what it does to you.
yeah, yeah. What it oh, like that, yeah. And then too, there's also the arachnids too in Starship Troopers.
Yep, they're all
Great
based on
example
that. And
too.
I
Yeah,
think even in Warhammer 40,000, like the what are they
the
called? The
Tyranid. Yeah,
Tyranids are very
yeah,
spider. Some of them are very spider-like or insectile for sure, right? So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
they're everywhere. The spider fear of spiders is everywhere.
Is all over. And I think too, because they're all over the world, I think every region in the entire world has some spider to be afraid of,
Yeah.
or some spider that you don't want around. especially too with global trade, we're moving a lot of these, like the banana, there's this story when I married my ex-wife, she told me this story one time that her mom bought a cactus from Art Naps, which you would know well. I mean, it's a
Yep.
for the listeners out there, Art Naps is a Kamloops based agricultural supply store. It's where we go to get all of our plants and trees and fruit and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, she bought a cactus from there and she brought it home and she was watering her plants one day and she realized that it was pulsating. And she
Pulsating.
had to take a closer look and she was like, what the heck? And it was like the whole flesh of the cactus was like pulsing and moving. So she thought, oh, that's not good. And she took it outside. And when she was taking it outside, she threw it into a garbage bucket and it broke open and just a ton of spiders came out. So she went inside and just like just 2 cans of Raid, like My Secret Identity, which is, there's a throwback for
Right.
lots of our listeners out. Remember that show, the guy that could fly with spray cans. But anyway, she went out there with 2 cans of Raid and just filled this bucket. Just death to all spiders.
Well,
Can
it's like
you
that urban
imagine?
legend too, where the girl has the little zit on her face and she goes to pop it and a spider leg comes out and then it just breaks open and like all these the spider laid a bunch of eggs in her face.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that, that's a common hallucination too. On It's like some people suffer when they're having like a pins and needles drug episode and stuff like that, or different types of
Yes.
schizophrenic paranoia episodes like that is to have spiders coming out of their pores or bugs crawling all over them, right?
And on that note, maybe we'll conclude the arachnophobia episode with my skin starting to crawl.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good place to stop, eh? A good place to stop. So yeah, hey, you know what? It's the Friday after Halloween, right? And we are just talking about the fear of spiders. So there we go. Great
That's
place
all
to
it is.
stop, as Jason
Yeah.
said. And we will see you next Friday, where we talk about another phobia that is unique to well, not unique to our area, I shouldn't say that, but very applicable for the time of and the season. And
There
we
we
will be
go.
talking about Keanophobia. So see you next Friday.
And we're not telling you what that is until next Friday.
Yeah, secrets.
Secrets. All right. Until then, I'm Jason.
And I'm Kenton.
And that was Echoes of Fear. Ear, 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 ear.